Hello, lovely dance people, and welcome to David's Dance Podcast. I'm your host, David Evans. We have an amazing dance artist here with us on the podcast. He's currently based with James Wilton Dance Company specializing in contemporary floor work and really physical, acrobatic, sort of spiraling movement. That's just absolutely incredible to watch. And we're really blessed to have him here on the podcast, Oliver Robertson. Ollie, welcome.
Well, thank you. God, how do I accept that? My
Just say yes
head's
and
gonna
thank
be
you.
too my head will be too big for the camera.
Yeah.
No, that's
Good.
lovely. Thank you. And I also can now know how to describe my dance and to friends and family that are because I never know. It's something that I've
That's an
spent.
interesting task, right? Because
Wow.
I used to work in the pub, right? And
Hmm.
and when I was a barman, all my regulars and a lot of the people in the bar knew that I was
Hmm.
also a dancer, and I was there doing bar work mostly when I was at Lobbin as well. So people knew me
Hmm.
as like kind of a dancer, and they'd be like, "Oh, what kind of dance do you do?" I'd say contemporary dance, and not everyone really fully understands like what contemporary dance like really is. Um, and and they'd be like, so what is that? And I would have to basically be like, all right, so ballet, and everyone knows ballet.
Hmm.
So that
Yeah.
I'd be like, ballet is about being on balance. Contemporary dance is about being
Ah.
off balance, but it's like
Mm.
same form, but it's about being off balance. And ballet is about defying gravity, whereas contemporary dance is about receiving gravity. And that's
Mm.
basically probably the most like fundamental distinction that I would define. I was like, the
Mhm.
forms are quite different and they're similar in their articulation, but they're really different in their like handling of physics, basically. Um,
Mhm.
but that was always because most
Cool.
people are in the UK are familiar with ballet but not incredibly familiar with
Mhm.
contemporary dance. That would be like the jump I would have to make would be
Yeah.
like how do you get
Yeah.
from ballet to contemporary dance, which is also
Mm.
like how contemporary dance kind of came about, going
Yeah.
from
True.
contemporary to modern to sorry from ballet to modern to contemporary, postmodern,
Mhm.
etc.
Mhm.
um but yeah, it's interesting explaining that. And then, of
Yeah.
course, the
And
inevitable
then you've got
reply of,
yeah.
and why haven't you tried out for Britain's Got Talent yet?
So, or Strictly. Have you ever heard like, are you gonna be, are you gonna be on Strictly next? That is a one. And you like, I've almost like given up with myself trying to explain why not, but I just sometimes go, yeah,
Yeah,
maybe,
maybe. Yeah.
just because it's often the easiest
You're like,
answer.
let me
Just
just
yeah,
commit
maybe,
another 10 years of training
yeah,
in ballroom,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then I'll consider
Yeah,
it.
exactly, exactly. Let me just try a type of dance I've never tried in my life. Maybe it could be the career, but that's always friends and family always ask. So kind of like what kind of stuff, and I just you put it into great words, like kind of even the spiraling and just I go for the classic kind of yeah, it's kind of like tricks, um, kind of floor work, which even floor work, I don't know if any of them even understand yet what floor work is, but I'll just say
Glorified rolling on the
acrobatic.
floor.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. Um, but yeah, now I can write down what you told me. That's perfect.
Good, good, good. What about James Wilton's kind of movement vocabulary and
Hmm.
I mean his practice more broadly. What about that kind of attracted you to the company?
Yeah. So for me, it's quite a cute, actually a cute story. It's almost like a little love story. So I was training outside of school, like a CAT scheme. So it's like in England, yeah, they have some people are familiar, but Center for Advanced Training, which is kind of your 10, 12-year olds up till you're 18, like before you start your kind of professional training. And I was there from the age of 12 in Ipswich at Dance East Cap, and then was kind of like, I mean, I this I'll go off on a tangent here, so just bear with me. But I had no idea really what it was as a training and what dance training even was and what it entailed, but I just knew I liked to don't know, test kind of what my body can do in a same way as you would with like sports and stuff, like seeing like what the limits are and stuff. So I kind of liked a lot of learning these tricks from YouTube and kind of like there's the stereotypical like 14-year-old boy at school like trying to do like backflips like off the walls and stuff. But it was kind of like I was that guy at the disco that would be like doing the worm, and everyone's just like, "What are you doing?" Like we're all just chilling, like talking, and it's just like doing the worm along the floor. It's like relax, just like socialize. But I don't know. There's something about that performance, I guess, that I enjoyed. And then
Just like what are
yeah,
those things in westerns called where the dust thing rolls
yeah,
by?
the little
Just
yeah, just there, yeah. And he's
down,
like, oh,
down, down, and then
I,
Ollie comes just worming in the
and
background.
then Ollie's here again, and they just like step over me, like, oh god. um, but yeah, I was that guy. But and then my parents obviously could tell I enjoyed that kind of side of things outside of school, and then saw that there's this cat scheme thing. They didn't know too much about it, but took me there for kind of what I thought was a bit like an open day sort of thing. But it was an audition without me realizing it was an audition. So I had no idea even then what I was auditioning for, which I think in hindsight has helped because I would have definitely gone into it differently. I don't know which way differently, but I think at that time, if I had have known
Yeah, just
there
the
was
word
bad,
audition just, tightens your butt cheeks. You just like,
definitely,
ooh.
absolutely. And then, and the
And
word
it's a
ballet.
totally different vibe, isn't it? Like when you go in and just like audition, everyone's just like stretching, sizing each other up until
Mm,
like
mm,
finally someone breaks the ice. And like, I
mm,
do appreciate it when like audition, when people create a good vibe in an audition and
mm,
like people connect by the end of the day. But still,
mm,
often, even when you're going in, just the nature of it, like, hey, we're all here trying to get a job, like, does make it like frosty when you get in and you do need to like literally break the ice in a way that when
yeah.
it's like you're like, oh, this was a workshop and there might be a job at the end, like just changes it and people are just a little bit more relaxed.
Mm, definitely. And I think even then at that age, that would have been and was my first audition. So it's something that I had no experience even in that context. So I was kind of like, I know I would have held so much back in a way of
Yeah.
even like personality wise, which I think at that age, auditioning for something like that, a lot they are looking for your personality and your kind of your drive and like all those kind of things more than your dance ability at that stage. It's more kind of what could you be like at the end of your training kind of through their help. So I
Yeah, they're
think
looking for
in that way.
signals of potential.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which I think we've got to remember now still, although we're professional dance artists or dancers, we're still, that is such an important part of it, is that personality and that kind of also work ethic and these little things like sense of humor. Like, not, I don't know, there's so many little factors, but I think that's still something that is so important to then not forget to bring that to an audition, because we know now what, I don't know, what is on offer and like how much it does mean. We can so easily forget to still be ourselves and show like us as a person as well as a dancer, because that's also like who they're going to want on that tour van for the 5 hour drive to rural Wales. Like, it's like, who can you like play cards with that's going to be all right and there's not going to be like, I don't know, like tuned in like on their phone, like zoned out from any interaction for the whole journey and stuff. Like, look, I don't know, things like that. But yeah, with see, I told you I go off on a tangent. with
So cat scheme
yeah, so
auditioning.
I kind of then had gone to this audition, not knowing it was an audition, and there's people who had danced, like kids who had been dancing since they'd popped out the womb. There are ballet shoes on as they came out and stuff like all this. Like ahead, they were ahead, all like in the gear, like the leotard, everything.
Pop
I had
out
no
and
clue, but
land and straight into a
yeah,
pirouette.
exactly to the knee, like
To the
perfect.
knee.
But yeah, anyway, then kind of found out soon during the day kind of what it was, and then got into that. So from there, having learnt, like having been then taught dance is obviously different to me doing the stuff I enjoy, the stuff that got me into it. So for me, getting over the fact that I had to learn ballet twice a week for at the age of like 12, as a 12-year-old boy who's so into his sports and stuff like that, is so for for me at the time, it was one of those things I just thought easier not to tell like any of my friends. I never, like, I'm sure looking back now, they they might have reacted like wind me up as boys did at that time, but soon got over it. Like, I'm sure it wasn't as much of an issue as I maybe thought it was at the time, but I just kept it pretty quiet and was having my own little battle in my head of like accepting that that is something you have to do no matter what. If the end goal is to be doing the tricks and stuff that got me into it, this kind of like breakdancey kind of, don't know, capoeira kind of like movement style, like in order to do that, still there's so the foundations, then there's still like your ballet and your contemporary and stuff like that, which took me, I think, that first kind of 2-3 years of kind of just getting over it. And then I had like a real switch where I tried to see ballet as like a contemporary class basically, and not let it be restricted. Basically, that difference of just like still move as much as I move in contemporary, like eat the space as much as I do in contemporary, stuff like that. Like, just don't see it as like I'm going in now to ballet class in a way.
Right. To just see it as just like another movement form rather than
Mm,
like all the as a cultural form, and all
mm,
the weight and the pressure and the different
mm,
cultural expectations that come with seeing it as like as kind of like a
mm.
cultural form. And yeah, just kind of getting to
Yeah,
like, hey, we're just moving here.
I think so, but also that's because I was pretty certain I didn't want to become a ballerina. So because I didn't want to be a ballet dancer specifically, and I kind of knew that then from that age. I was like, I just want to enjoy it enough to be able to kind of learn from it and get through all the training that I will have to do it, and then revisit it maybe once every couple of weeks. So like it in professional training. But yeah, once I'd got over that, that was when I'd really like fell in love with dance. I think I was just like that, because that was the part of it. You know, with kind of, you have any job you do, there's bits you like, and then there's always that kind of one or two things you don't like with any job.
Yeah, of course.
Often it, I mean, for me, it's often like written work of things where it's like I love to do everything, be active, blah blah blah, and then it's that keeping on top of, I don't know, logging everything you're doing, all the written stuff that normally then for me is a bit like, oh, that's my little bit that if I could cut it out and it would work the same, then ideally I would. But yeah, for me then it was kind of ballet, and I was like, if I then make myself like that, do what I need to do to be able to enjoy that, then I won't have that. I won't have any of those things that are sending me into doubt of whether I enjoy it enough or not. And yeah, from that switch, I was like, right, this is it. Really
It's,
want to do, like, really
it's an
want to do it.
interesting process of figuring out like how you relate to something, because like, yeah, I was similar. I was a guy growing up in a small town, and I was the only guy in my dance classes.
Mm-hmm.
um and I remember sort of, yeah, doing a jazz class for a couple of years, and in that sort of thinking about like, like, how do I relate to this movement? Because it's not how, it's not, you know, the story, the internal story that the girls are going on, and that is kind of being taught to them, and of how to perform it, how to be in the movement, isn't how I'm relating to this. And I'm
Mm,
enjoying the movement, but it's just not how I'm relating to it, because I'm like, I'm don't want to be pretty. So
yeah.
but eventually I sort of realized that there was an image that I caught onto, which was like the image of like kind of like a tsunami, which is like, you know, it's where it's like it has curve and it has grace and beauty, but it's also powerful. And that was kind of
Mm,
the thing of like, I'm like, oh, okay, that's how I relate to the movement. And once I
mm,
figured that out, I was like,
mm,
I was really fully in it. But there was a little bit of a process of internal discovery, because the way that all the other students and the way that the teacher, and this might not be this, you know, I'm talking about this in gendered ways, but it might not be that way. It might just be that in any class, how other people are relating to the movement isn't your way into it, you know.
mm,
And you might have a different story or a different angle or a different feeling that you attach yourself to, that gets you excited about moving and gets you into the movement and into performing the movement in a way that feels like deep and allows you to like really inhabit it. And
mm.
that's just a little bit of like, you know, yeah, discovery, as you say. Sometimes it's not just the form, but uh, the dance form, but it's also figuring out like, finding that thing in it that you go, oh, actually, yeah, it's different to other people, but this is what I like about it, you know. And then
Mm.
you suddenly appreciate it, um, more for what it could be than just how it was originally presented to you.
Yeah, and I think with that, it then almost becomes endless of the possibilities of, it's not just seeing it as this way, trying to make yourself see it as like one way. It just then will be forever opening up different experiences with this, what you'd call like the same style or something, and then you then got where you can so naturally fuse kind of different styles, or how it, like, in quotation marks, of styles that you, and then form your own like movement language or movement style. Is yeah, bringing aspects of any experience with anything you've liked or not liked. And I don't know, we have like, in dance we have our dance habits which we go into trying to, we always do these tasks to try and break away from dance habits, but they're, I guess, ways of trying to then form this language of how we know best to dance, and like what feels like it makes most sense in our bodies, um, to then be able to kind of nail. And then that can be something we can, soon we'll be having like David Evans technique in like in your like training, professional training,
I think
which
that'd
will
be
be
pretty
your,
chaotic.
if you it'll be like 5 people per class.
Like, where is this going?
Just trust me, it's the process.
What? Yeah, it's a process.
Yeah. It's a
And we know
process
it's a
for
process
me.
because
Yeah.
the style is still in process.
Yeah, exactly. But but yeah, which, right, which is kind of bringing me back to the original question you did actually ask. But this kind of movement language of James Wilton for me, where I he came to do a piece and make choreograph a piece on my group, my level at Dance East Cat, which they were always really good at the Cat Scheme to bring in so many kind of guests and artistic kind of choreographers and stuff throughout the time. So even because it was quite a small net of students, even the choreographers that you don't work with directly, you will cross paths with and be able to kind of have conversations. And there's choreographers that I bump into and recognize now who still recognize me from when I was 14, and they didn't even choreograph on me in the first place. They probably were
Wow.
just like, who's this little guy like running around like getting on my nerves? But yeah, like it is such a small knit community in a way where everyone links. There's like that little link in the chain somehow to everyone, where you can kind of, you'd be able to pick 5 people, and you could pick one random person, and through those 5 people you'd be able to somehow connect.
Yeah.
um
It's
but
the what do they call it? The 6 degrees of
that's
separation.
that's the
But
one.
in the dance world, it's just one.
Yeah, it
I
is.
don't think I've ever met anyone in the dance world who, like, when I went onto Facebook, we didn't have shared friends. Like,
Absolutely.
it is a pretty, like, yeah, tight knit
Mm,
world, as you say.
yeah, and you wonder how you go, how because I know them from such a different context of these two friends. Like, how could, almost sometimes they're not even dancers as well. Sometimes they're, I don't know, it's just someone who you know from dance that's been up north, for example, where somewhere I was in Leeds at Northern School of Contemporary Dance, and I'll know someone who wasn't even in my year then, but they know someone who I went to school with or something, and it's just, and you're just like, what? How does this work? But but yeah. So when James had come to work on my group, that was really like, there is dance out there that is, I don't know, for me, that I found cool, where I was like, this is something I don't have to keep a secret from my mates, where like,
Where you're like, I can finally come out.
yeah,
Guys,
yeah,
I'm a
I can
dancer.
come out as a dancer. And you might want to take a seat for this,
And they're
guys.
like, we saw you do the worm through the
Yeah, I know.
like,
We knew,
we know.
we could
We
tell.
knew for a
Yeah,
long time.
we knew
We
you
saw the
were in.
signs.
We were trying to invite you to come out, but yeah, I was just discovered this a new thing, because I hadn't seen much dance. I think because I wasn't one where, I don't have dance in the family, or even any real dance at my school, or then not like many dancers that were friends at school. That my only dancers were people that I'd met through kind of dancey. So yeah, I just was kind of like, wow, this is really interesting. It's something that would then, I'd go to kind of sleep that week in between then rehearsing stuff, and play it back in my head for almost like the first time, where we kind of get that almost, don't know, something that I think other dancers have as well, where you go to sleep and you just picture yourself trying to do that move or that trick or something, where like it's always so much, it's just effortless in my head. And then like trying to recreate them the next day in the studio, right, I've got this, I pictured it so well in my head, and then whoops, just oops, gravity is not on my side
Yeah,
as much as it
then you
was.
remember physics exists, and
It
gravity's a
does,
thing.
it does. But yeah, I enjoyed that experience so much that I kind of thought, wow, I'm gonna try and really in any opportunity I get with creative stuff and improvisation, exploration, stuff like that, like try and really explore that sort of movement language. And then yeah, got to my final year of CAT scheme and worked then with lots of other choreographers as well, which I learned so much from, but I still, like, nothing seemed to fit on my body as naturally as James's movement. So still kept it in mind. Went to train then at Northern in Leeds, and that was really where you get a lot more responsibility of kind of how you want to sculpt yourself into a dancer. That's where with dances at that age, they kind of are helping sculpt you into the best version of yourself, to kind of, in order to then get that placement with your dance school professional training. But in a lot of that, they're really trying to help, not like have an end product of a person, but don't know. It is obviously at that age much more of a kind of regimented schedule and stuff. But then with professional training, there's a bit more freedom of what you want to explore. So then with that, I found the 3 years I was really sculpting myself as much as possible into that movement language, so that it would give me the best opportunity then in that graduating year to be able to try and get either work then with that company or work of a similar context, or potentially create my own stuff that is of a similar language anyway. So yeah, then.
And how did you go about that? Was that about seeking out classes sort of in more of that style? Was that about kind of through improvisation a little bit like you discussed? Was it, was it in thinking about how you were conditioning your body for that style? What was your kind of thinking and sort of how to get there?
So for me, I think the kind of like what you were saying with sculpting the body, like really like fitness is so key for James's style, definitely. As anyone
when people are like, what's James's style like, I'm just like, it is, I'm like, beautiful, but I'm like, to do it is just squat city.
Like, it is so tough.
Like I probably shouldn't say this, but like I don't think I walked for like 2 days after that audition. Like honestly, like my because you can do a lot of prep and stuff, but especially in an audition where you're doing the same exact sequence, like that way, like my thighs were just not up for it. And that was kind of the one thing I learned from that I didn't learn from the intensive. I was like, oh, okay, if I went for this kind of thing again, I was just like, I would just be doing so many squats before this because your legs, because it's so up and down from standing, like your legs just need to be just up for it on that functional level.
So yeah, with that is what I really, for this movement language, kind of creating kind of my own and giving myself the best chance. And with James's style, is a lot of it was like efficiency is so important, where you can, it's tough, but with that movement, like you add the extra after you've got the foundation. So all the you kind of dance it after, if that makes sense, where you get the functionality, you get which muscles are the biggest, basically, that you can then use at the right times. So say we do like a little, you got your plank into a roll, kind of like a side roll, and then you kind of push back up to this plank, like the kind of one of the classics of James's style and a lot of other kind of floor work styles is getting that functionality, where if you roll all the way through onto your front, then you've got to do a full press up, and just like stuff like that. Like is always the first example I will teach if I'm doing a workshop of that movement style, where kind of coming up through that arm as you've got that momentum, kind of just like knowing how to use the momentum that you've got in order to.
So no energy is wasted, basically. You're taking the energy from that, all that energy you put into one movement, you're letting flow into the next, so you're not having to like re-energize every single movement.
Exactly. We don't have start-stop technology like these cars do, where we can't.
There's no brakes.
It's not just a switch. I know. There's just, you've got to. You've just got. If you're stopping the energy that's already wanting to flow, then it's almost effort. For now, anyway, for me, having done it for so long, it's actually requires effort to stop the momentum in a way, where then to stop it, you then got just as much energy to have to start it again. So obviously that comes from the choreography as well, where you can have a phrase that is a bit, I don't know, stoppy starty and stuff, which then makes it difficult to keep that efficiency. But a lot of the movement language that James creates and similar stuff that I would create is that's again like this kind of, that's the basis, that's the foundation of the movement language. Is I'll do this role, and then rather than think what move can I do here, I think where's coming out of that move, where is my energy at the minute, where like
Right.
which body part is naturally able to lead into the next thing. So by doing a slide, if you're sliding, you leave that arm behind, it can then be that thing to take us back up to a higher level by using that arm. Whereas I don't know, just little things of finding that real efficiency, not wasting
Right.
energy.
So like finding what is leading me into the next movement, and then how can I follow that to keep the energy going and keep guiding me, and that kind of weight transfer or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And then obviously with floor work, it requires upper body strength, which is just something you just can't avoid. So obviously outside of the studio, I do a lot of strengthening, both upper body and lower body, but I guess more upper body than other movement styles may require. But then remembering that during the movement, it's not just that, like just because it requires upper body strength, don't just do it all in your upper body. Like we've got our legs as well, for which are bigger, like the biggest muscles are, however hard we work our biceps in the gym, they're not going to be as big as our quads. Like it's not how it works. So why not use the functionality of how our body is designed to help basically for me to help me get through a dance week. But like what you're saying, where you can't walk for 2 days after like an intense day, where if I've not got that efficiency and that technique spot on, then I'll feel in one area of my body really tight then for the next day.
Right.
And I'll think like when I can spread the load of legs and arms, kind of try and spread it 50-50 when I can, like that's then the best way. Or if I'm doing something then on the arms,
performatively and all those other things, it creates better movement quality because the whole body's engaged in the movement, which is also important, like kind of proprioceptively, that you having that kind of like body awareness of how everything's like kind of moving together. And engaging the whole body in it, which when you start, I think it's kind of getting away from lazy dance in a way. Your whole body has to be kind of in it, but in doing that, as you say, you start to be able to, by having the whole body engaged in what you're doing, spread the load a little bit, I guess, as you're saying. So it's not just like, oh, my legs are just doing this now, or oh, this movement's my arms, but the whole instrument is engaged.
Yeah, exactly. And then like what you're saying with, there's no, like, you've not got the relaxed movement, but that's then almost the last layer of when we want this performance ready, in order to be able to travel, like tech run performance, pack up, travel, tech run performance, like so often and so quickly. Like you then got to find in the movement the bits where you don't need any muscular engagement. There's bits then that you can find, oh, actually, if I've got this momentum here, my arms can travel, although they're outstretched nice and long and straight. Yeah, that bit, because I've got the momentum going that way anyway, I can almost let them just ride out that journey, to then pace through, be able to kind of pace yourself through that whole performance, because it is such a killer. It, like, I think honestly, it's something that does get easier, which everyone goes, oh, it doesn't get easier, but I think it does get easier, but it's so difficult to let yourself get through the movement with the same quality, basically. Like with to let it get easier, it's so easy to let the quality be lost as well by like this efficiency, like finding areas where you don't need the strength, you don't need to engage your muscles. That can often then be just less interesting to watch. It can lose that dynamic quality and stuff, which again is why it's for me anyway to watch. Why I love watching it is the movement quality and dynamics and stuff of it.
So it's finding those moments where, like, even when you're relaxed, there's still real clarity in the movement, and yeah, finding a way to be articulate while being relaxed and soft.
Yeah, it's almost like, say you've got like a little them little Fitbit or like calorie counters that say you do one performance on your first one of the tour, and you filmed it, so you watch it back and you go, awesome, movement qualities just how I want them to be. And then your last performance on the tour, hopefully when you film it, the video will look exactly the same and you'll go, yeah, movement qualities, well, or ideally even better movement qualities, but you're kind of thinking movement quality should not have dropped, but on your little calorie counter you're hoping it's saying like half of what it was before, where you just think like I've achieved the same outcome visually for the audience, aesthetically and stuff,
with
but
greater efficiency,
with greater efficiency to prolong. I mean, a little shout out for someone who's in James's company and has been for a while, Nori, who anyone who's seen the company or done any of the workshops just will understand how incredible he is, where he's been working with James and doing this sort of style for a very long time. Don't know if he'll be offended if I drop his age, but let's say he's more than double my age, and he's still working this style of movement, has been doing it. Like his career has been as long as I've been on the planet,
and makes it look easy.
Also, oh my God. Yeah, I cannot describe audibly on a podcast how effortlessly he makes it look, and has obviously got even more tricks and more solos and more stage time than I'm at the minute, where for me to get through this piece is hard enough, but he won't leave the stage anywhere near as often as I do. So you just think that's clearly something that for him has been so important, to get that efficiency right, to really work on that longevity to still be going now. It's just that's something where you can't learn unless you really see it every day. I think like it's so hard, but like with this, you work with a dance company for a week, well, you do a project or something, but like you get there almost them at their best for that week. You don't see them really every day, 24/7. Like when you're touring with someone, you see them out of the studio, you share a hotel room with them, you see them at dinner, like all these little things you kind of just I don't know, you could imagine that when Nori, for example, is out of the studio, that he'd be like, right, I've put in all my energy, sort of thing. Like he'd have to kind of zone out, like, don't know, recuperate, but like still can be full of energy, like on a tour. And I don't know, it's just one of those things which you learn so much as a professional. That's something that you can't teach in training, because you only learn it from really seeing it and being a part of that in that context of a touring company and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, the last year of me being with James, I kind of now fast forwarded, but me being with James for the year as an apprentice has taught me the most of any stage or chapter of kind of the dance journey, just all in a year, because there's so much don't know, just being treated exactly the same as a dancer. It's kind of that, like, have the responsibility and see, I don't know, what you want to take from it. And
it's also, as you say, like, it's all the stuff you pick up by osmosis, you know, like the way our brains are set up, we we learn so much, to watch somebody do a movement almost teaches you as much as doing the movement itself, because our body watches that and it maps, in order to kind of empathize with that person, it maps our own kind of body onto them and sort of like puts us in their shoes. So by seeing it done, it's almost as if our own body is practicing it, and it's kind of like acquiring a language. You only become fluent by going into the country and just being surrounded by the language, and it's kind of a similar thing. The best thing you can do is just kind of immerse yourself in the language of dance, in a way. And a lot of that language will just kind of just start to come into the body. It's not about so much learning the language as much as you just kind of acquiring aspects of it through osmosis, in a way. So it's
exactly,
the best thing you can do as a dancer is just and if you don't, you're a dancer and you're not currently in a company, that is a position, only for very few, and very lucky and very talented and hardworking. But it's a difficult thing to attain. But there's other ways in which we can surround ourselves with other like-minded dancers, just train with people, grab a friend, just be in the dance culture and just be practicing the dance language together. So you just absorb those things, I find I just by having other people present, if I'm training whatever, like, I'm thinking about breakdance in particular, just being around other guys who are dope, and like, watching them do certain power moves or do whatever. I find I just automatically do those things better because I'm seeing them demonstrated well, or I'm seeing little concepts, or musically or stylistically, that kind of inspire me, yeah, it's just going for immersion any which way that you can.
Definitely with stylistic kind of that added personality to the movement as well, I think is so important, which then you'll see by being around so many other people, dancers, dance artists in the industry, that you could see your 5 friends do the same move 5 different ways, like slightly. So then from that, you, like, with this kind of empathetic way of seeing it on their body and envisioning your body on it, like, it almost gives you 5 options of how to explore that movement yourself. And as a dancer, by knowing your style, just being true to your style, not necessarily, it's tough, but not trying to replicate someone else's style that you like. You can learn so much from that style and incorporate the way you receive it into your body, but it's still going to be your body, and you're going to have a different history, upbringing, all these factors, like, that will play a part in movement style. Where, I don't know, if you are Spanish and you're out in the sun all the time, that's going to be a part of, if you like have always danced out in the sun, or so, I don't know, little things like that, where you've got more there's more factors that can affect and enhance, like, you've got the breeze on you as you're dancing and stuff like that, like little things which everyone has their own don't know, experiences. So yeah, by being true to your own experiences as well as interests and stylistic qualities and stuff like. But if you, the more true you are, the more you can actually offer other people as well around you, because it's again one of, like I was saying, there's 5 different ways. If your friends are all doing it slightly different, they're all true to themselves rather than all trying to replicate it exactly how they were taught it. Then I don't know. Yeah, you just learn
And it's
so
just
much more.
drawing inspiration and drawing from the tools that are already available to you. You know, it
Mm,
was something we talked a little bit like with Josh Smith of, you know, you might already
mm,
have a way into a movement language. You know, I think about so I just did like a training session the other night with a friend of mine who's not a dancer. Like he's a musician, but like he used to play basketball. And like he's still in like incredible shape, but I had a session with him where we did a hit training over Zoom, and
mm,
we're doing breakdancing, doing some b-boying, and so I was like, you know, kind of teaching him some of the steps and things.
mm,
And for the top rock is the standing up dance and breakdance, like all that stuff. At first, he wasn't getting it, and then I started to explain it to him, as if it was like a basketball steps, you know. So I was like, "All right,
mm,
pass the front, and then drive to the left, and then come back, pass to the front, drive
mm,
to the right." And then suddenly he just
no,
got it because he
yeah,
wasn't trying to just start from scratch. He was already drawing from the things that were innate in his body and
mm,
you know, and yeah, kind of just getting into the tools and the movement language that was already present there, and using that as kind of like a departure point or kind of a way into him receiving these new movement ideas, you know.
mm,
So it's a lot of it's that of we have a lot of resources, movement wise and experientially, you know, that we can sometimes take for granted. And there might be things like, you know, like the sun or feeling the wind on your face.
mm,
It might be
mm.
something like experientially that simple of like, you know, what is it like when I dance with that feeling, in a way that is different from someone who grew up in a country like the UK without any sun.
Exactly.
What is it like when I feel the gray clouds on my face?
Yeah, the rain pouring
Yeah.
down the back of my neck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, that stuff, it's there's a lot there, and I think
mm,
there's a lot of resources as people that we can sometimes ignore, and actually it's one of the first things where it's like, actually you have a lot already, and can we be better utilizing these experiences
mm,
that we already have to improve our dancing?
mm,
Mm.
mm. Well, that's what I've loved with. I take any opportunity I possibly can to teach or learn from um, people from like all over the place, or like all over the world, different cultures, different dance experiences, like you're saying, some not even trained dancers, for example, stuff like that. But this time now, there's always like positives for every situation, although it's hard to always find them right now, kind of with COVID and stuff, with everything being stopped. But um, with Zoom, like it's actually, although it's not the same as being in a studio with people, but it's given me a chance to teach people from South America, like North America, like all over Europe. Got people like Singapore, like Asia and stuff, where you like wouldn't ordinarily be able to connect with so many people, and then also not only offer my experiences and my language and
Mm.
stuff like this, and but also then watch them replicating kind of my style, then seeing things slightly differently, like what we were saying with this stylistic quality, and um, then being able to see their versions of kind of that same movement, the same choreography, just is only going to add to my range and my knowledge. I don't know, and experiences and stuff. Where then creating stuff is it's another way of initiating into that movement, is kind of that different style of the same movement language and stuff. And yeah, I think through Zoom it's been I guess one of the only positives there can be, I guess, from right now not being able to be in a studio with people. But yeah, not having to do all that travel to fly to South America, although it'd be lovely to experience that culture properly. It's just, you can't just do that on logging onto Zoom and logging off, how quick and easy that is. But yeah, it's a weird one adapting, but there's been some nice things that I think, don't know how long they'll stay, but they can be hopefully things that won't completely get lost. Obviously, like ideally we want to transition back into a studio and touring and stuff, but there are still things that you can still keep up once a week, Zoom workshops, where if I can offer people from other countries that may not get the opportunity to travel to Europe or travel to England or anything like that, where if I can offer them anything with just my time, which at the minute we have, depending what people are up to, but have more time on our hands, it's just, I don't know, just trying to support each other as a dance community now more than ever. It's just you can say like, it's fine, we're all together, we've got this, but really, like, what can you offer? Like, what skills do you know you have that you can help offer to other, like, people in the industry? It's like, doing it is different to saying that you're supporting and stuff. Like, although you may think, oh, it's only one skill, like what would teaching people to juggle help with? But there could be one person where, I don't know, they've always wanted to do it, but they've also wanted to meet someone English, or I don't know, do something where they'll learn something from it, which you can, it's just offer, like, if you can offer what you've got, and if it helps one person, then it's worth it.
Yeah, it's, you know, we all have an opportunity to give back, and it's important to take those opportunities to do so, because it's so valuable. And, you know, we all remember those people when we were coming up who helped sort of set us on our way, and, you know, those tutors that have made huge impact on the outcomes of our careers and our dance journey. I wanted to ask you, what's is there any stuff coming up that you wanted to plug and promote? Are you doing was there a piece coming up with James? Is it iRobot? Is that right?
iRobot, exactly. Yes, yeah. Good knowledge. We'll be doing, it's an outdoor duet, so it's hopefully something then that should be able to go ahead this summer with restrictions, etc.
And this one is you and Nori as well?
No, this one, Nori helped with some creation kind of early days, but no, this is going to be me and another male dancer who I believe James does know and has worked with before, but we haven't been able to be in a rehearsal or in a studio yet. So it's going to be a bit more like, when that's possible, it'll be quite an intense creation period. I had 1 week last week just with me and James and Sarah, like on Zoom, which was completely new to me. Doing more than like an hour and a half class on Zoom, like doing like a whole day's rehearsal, then for 5 or 6 days, it's a lot, because it's not just, I don't know, it's not just physically draining, which obviously we've spoke about, but it's also, I think, even just the technology, looking at a screen the whole time and being inside, and don't know.
and not
something
being in the
about,
same space for dance makes it
yeah.
difficult, and it does mean you, when you're in the same dance space, you can kind of just feel what's happening a little bit more and get
Hmm.
a better
And
emotional read and all of that stuff. Whereas like when it's via Zoom, you got to be like looking and then like
mm,
doing and
hmm,
then looking and doing,
yeah,
and
and
you're not on the same dance floor. So it's like, well, that movement might work for you in the studio, but I'm out
yeah,
here on the grass. So
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
like, it
But
doesn't really work the same way.
like energy, I find energy as well is, you share so much energy without realizing it in a
Yeah.
dance studio, where you find someone, you come back from lunch, and if there's someone that's got that kick energy just like driving, then it brings everyone into that
Mm.
same energy, which when it's like 4 or 5 days in and you're coming back from lunch in a silent studio on your own until you kind of unmute, and then you're still listening through like a mic, you're a bit like, right, I still need to, like, it's that extra motivation to yourself to bring the energy up and stuff. Um but it was nice again to be able to finally create and stuff. um
Oh, I think we just lost your video. It's back.
Sorry.
That's
Hello.
cool.
Hello. Sorry. Had a call. I just declined. I yeah. Have, it was a new experience, but
Mm.
again, the piece is going to be actually a trampoline piece.
Oh
So
wow.
um, we have the trampoline on its way over, which has come from Finland, which is fantastic with these times of COVID restrictions. You've got snowstorms going off. You've got Brexit happening. You've got all these factors that have slowed everything down anyway. But yeah, the once that has then arrived, it will kind of transfer a lot of what we've created movement wise last week, and kind of yeah, translate it onto a trampoline and be in the creation process actually then with each other in a studio. Or I think it will probably end up being a bit like a dance hall, kind of like sports hall sort of thing, where you can fit a trampoline indoors because this weather is not reliable enough to be outside for rehearsals yet. So that's kind of the upcoming performing that I'll be
Wow,
doing
what a
over summer.
cool challenge to be
Really
developing a
nice.
piece like that. Dude, that sounds like
Mm.
so much fun.
And for me as well, it's almost like a little kid's kind of dream come true, because that's what got me
Yeah,
into dance
yeah,
genuinely. Like in the first place, I had a trampoline in the garden,
yeah.
so every evening I'd be out on it just doing these tricks, flips, and I don't know, experimenting with different ways of moving still without knowing it was really even dance, but kind
Yeah.
of like initially what kind of got me into it. So yeah, doing it'll be different to the Storm and Leviathan and the other works that I've done with James, but it's also it'll be my first one in the creative process as well. So that's already
Mm.
been something different, where I can really offer my, like what we were saying, with my personality, experiences, and language and stuff like this, like all these
Yeah.
factors where um yeah, I can kind of bring that in, like brush off the old cobwebs from when I was
Yeah.
like 10 on the trampoline,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
back
dude. We
flips.
used to go so hard when we were like had that trampoline when we
Yeah.
were kids. And it was so great. Like such a great way
Oh
to
yeah.
like burn energy. And we had so much fun. But
Mm,
like, dude, we
hmm.
had some dodgy times. Like even when ours like we got a netting and there's
Yeah.
only the one little gap. Like I do remember
Hmm.
my friend double bouncing me and me folding up like a piking and just going backwards straight through the gap,
Oh
just
my
like that. And
god.
like, dude, we had so many dodgy times like that. We double bounced his
Mm,
sister over the net one time.
yeah. Oh
Like,
my god.
and,
And
uh, dude,
these are things that like I definitely will get, like they will be part of the process in a way where like you've got to kind of explore and experiment, where you've
yeah,
got to
yeah,
keep that playful side, like with, although it's as a professional company, you still have that playful side to things. But yeah, for me, because it will be a proper kind of gymnastic one, which as well, the fact he'd ordered it from Finland, it's because it has to take both of our weights as dancers on the same trampoline to like fully grown men, as we'll say. So that'll be I reckon it will really have its power for me compared to what I remember as a 10-year-old kid. But yeah, that's the one to look out for.
Have to be careful of the double bounce thing. Where can people check that out? Where's best to follow? Will you post about that?
So I will be, I'll be posting myself a lot about it on my Instagram. Is all I really use for at the minute.
We'll drop media. We'll drop your Instagram in the description below.
Oh, awesome. And same with James. Anything that I'm doing with James, he's also one for social media. So I'm sure a lot of people might already be following that anyway. So if they want to find more of what I'm doing, I'm kind of tagged in some things on there as well. Apart from that, I'll just try and keep teaching bits as well, where in those kind of gaps of tour and performing and stuff. I'll try and be going back to some of my old places, like Leeds to Northern, and go to London, like the Place and Laban, and try and use some studios. Just do a couple of like week-long little like workshop things with, again, like what we were saying, trying to give back in these times for those in a similar situation who are now newly graduating or have just graduated and stuff, and want that kind of kickstart back into the dance world again, who might have been doing other things. Like for me, like I never thought I'd be doing something completely different. I know we do like the classic like bar work, cafe work and stuff, but I was in like working in a care home for the last like 6 months, which is something I'm not trained in, have no no experience at all, but it's something that has made me almost think, right, I need to get back into the dance world before this becomes my life.
But, no, it's good. It's good to have those experiences, and it makes you more appreciative of what we have, you know, because everybody's got to hustle, so it may as well be hustling at something that you're passionate about and that you derive immense pleasure from. It's so great to have you on the podcast, dude. Listeners, we'll drop all the links in the description below, so if you want to check out Ollie's classes or iRobot, the new piece that he's in, you can follow him on social media. Thanks, Ollie, for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, David.
Thank you, listeners, and we look forward to seeing you next week.